welcome back to my channel. My name is Natea and welcome to Nesthetics, bringing you content that is aesthetic, authentic, and all about activism. First of all, happy MLK Day. Today, this video will be honoring MLK and his legacy. This video is also a part of the Throwback series. The Throwback series is where I break down and analyze series, movies, events, etc. from Black and BIPOC creators. So today we are going to be breaking down and analyzing an episode of the Boondocks, which is an American sitcom, an animated sitcom that aired between 2005 and 2014. The show follows the lives of Robert Freeman, who is voiced by John Witherspoon, may he rest in peace, and his grandsons, 10-year-old revolutionary Huey and 8-year-old Riley, who are played by Regina King. Today we're going to be breaking down season 1, episode 9, Return of the King. In this episode, which is was aired in 2006, in this episode, Dr. Martin Luther King hypothetically wakes up from a 32-year-old coma and begins to live in post 9/11 America. So I found this episode very interesting. I feel like this episode is still relevant today, even though it aired in 2006. I really like this episode because of how they portray Dr. King. This is actually a very controversial episode. People like Al Sharpton don't really agree with this episode and how they portray Dr. King in this episode, but we're gonna get right into that and start breaking down the episode. So the episode starts off with a recap of MLK, how he passed. He passed away in 1968. He was shot on the balcony of the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. So the episode kind of starts off like that, doing a recap of that, and then it shows how Dr. King wakes up 32 years later in the year 2000 and wakes up from his coma and begins to live in post 9/11 America. So then people start to celebrate in the streets because MLK is back and they're happy to see him.
Oh shit, my nigga MLK!
People acting a fool. They have celebrations on Dr. Martin Luther King avenues or streets, and you know that like when you go past Dr. Martin Luther King Drive, Avenue, whatever, in your city, in your town, you know that that street is in the hood. Because in Milwaukee, the Dr. Martin Luther King Street is in the hood, okay? I remember I saw a meme one time, and it was like, when you see Dr. Martin Luther King Drive, and it was somebody locking their doors. Like, so they were basically having a celebration on the streets of Dr. Martin Luther King Drive. People were happy to see him. People were acting a fool. So as Dr. King started to navigate his life, they decided to let him write a book. He got a book deal. They made a movie out of his life. He was able to present at like music television awards, stuff like that. Like, he was getting recognized all over. But then like nobody was really recognizing him for his work. People didn't even show up to the screening of his movie, and I feel like people in this episode really weren't taking MLK for what he was and what he stood for. They were kind of just looking at him as a celebrity. So then in this next scene, Dr. King is interviewed and he is asked about 9/11. He is asked about his thoughts about what like America should do now that they have been attacked by 9/11, and Dr. King responds, you know, with a response that is non-violent, and he was saying that America should turn the other cheek. So people were outraged by this response of Dr. King because they were saying he was a traitor. They were saying he was un-American. They were saying he was an Al-Qaeda lover. Like, they were saying all this stuff about Dr. King just because he said that America shouldn't strike back, even though America was struck on for 9/11. Also, CNN named him top 10 unpatriotic Americans. And I think that even though we don't know what Dr. King would have specifically said in regards to 9/11, I do think he would have said something along the lines of what they portrayed in the show. Because Dr. King was against militarism, he was against war. A lot of people do know him for his non-violent like protest and things like that, but nobody really talks about how he was against war and militarism and really focused on poverty. And he also talked about and was passionate about how the US and America is spending so much money on militarism, but so many people are impoverished. There's a quote by Dr. King where he talks about this. I want to say one other challenge that we face is simply that we must find an alternative to war and bloodshed. Anyone who feels, and there are still a lot of people who feel that way, that war can solve the social problems facing mankind is sleeping through a great revolution. President Kennedy said on one occasion, mankind must put an end to war, or war will put an end to mankind. The world must hear this. I pray to God that America will hear this before it is too late, because today we're fighting a war. I am convinced that it is one of the most unjust wars that has ever been fought in the history of the world. Our involvement in the war in Vietnam has torn up the Geneva Accord. It has strengthened the military-industrial complex. It has strengthened the forces of reaction in our nation. It has put us against the self-determination of a vast majority of the Vietnamese people and put us in the position of protecting a corrupt regime that is stacked against the poor. I don't think that necessarily means that he's unpatriotic, but Dr. King is just keeping it real, you know? So Dr. King was also like really anti-Vietnam War too when he was alive. So I think that this portrayed Dr. King well. You know, this might not have been exactly what he would have said, but I think that he would have definitely disagreed with attacking and starting a war after 9/11. So Dr. King's book is finally released, and he titled his book Dream Deferred, and no one showed up to his book signing except for Huey, which is one of the characters in the Boondocks. And Huey's character, who is a 10-year-old revolutionary, is based on Huey P. Newton, who is an actual historical figure who is a co-founder of the Black Panther Party. So I really like how they kind of had Huey bring out the spirit of Huey P. Newton in this episode. So after the book signing, Robert Friedman, who is the grandfather of Huey, he asked MLK to come to dinner with his family. And as they're walking to their house for dinner, of course we see Ruckus, Uncle Ruckus, who is the biggest coon of them all, throwing bricks at MLK because he doesn't like MLK. He doesn't stand for what MLK believes in, none of that. Like, y'all, if y'all never seen Boondocks, like, Uncle Ruckus is the biggest coon of them all, okay? So besides the fact, after dinner is finished and they finish eating, Huey and MLK are sitting down watching TV in the living room, and MLK is flipping through the channels, seeing all these black folks in music videos, twerking. He sees Bobby and Whitney, he sees their court trial, he just sees a whole bunch of stuff. And Dr. King asks Huey, like, Huey, what happened to our people? And Huey was like, they were waiting for Dr. King to come back. And Dr. King said, well, the Dr. King that they remember is gone forever. And like I said earlier, I really like how the character Huey really brings out the spirit of Huey P. Newton, the actual revolutionary. So it's kind of like in this conversation, it's like Huey P. Newton and Dr. King speaking to each other in a way. And as you can see, or as you can tell, like Dr. King, as they portrayed him in this episode, was not pleased with how black people were, how our community was and how we were acting, I guess you could say. He was not pleased at all. He was not pleased to see how we were being portrayed and the stereotypes that we portrayed on television. And he was just like, what happened to our community, you know? I don't think that MLK will be satisfied where we are right now, not just because of the lack of progress. Like, we have made progress as a people and in America in general, but I think he would be disappointed in our people. I don't think that he would agree with like a lot of the music and like hip-hop like they were showing on the television in the episode. I feel like he wouldn't really be for how black people are presenting themselves. Like, it's okay for us to have fun and do whatever, but like I feel like in some instances MLK wouldn't have been pleased with some of the stuff or how we kind of portray ourselves in different ways. And when Huey said that black folks were waiting for Dr. King to return, I feel like we really at one point lost all of our prominent leaders in the Black community, and really we don't have leaders like that anymore in the Black community. So it's kind of like, I feel like Huey was saying that as a people we were kind of lost without our prominent leaders, and we were waiting for another leader to come back and lead us. But I feel like we shouldn't need a leader to lead us. I feel like we should be able to come together as a community without having a leader like Martin or MLK or Huey P. Newton or Angela Davis. Like, I feel like we shouldn't have to have a leader in order for us to come together. I feel like we can all be leaders and we can all be revolutionaries. Like, yeah, we have organizations like Black Lives Matter, but I feel like these organizations don't really, they're not the leadership I feel like that we have seen in MLK. Like, that, to me, like, BLM doesn't really embody the leadership of the leaders that we've had in the past. So I feel like BLM is great, you know, in some cases, and I do have some critiques of BLM that I could probably spend a whole nother video on, but I won't get too much into it now. And I just think that even though we have that organization, it's nothing like the leadership that we had in the past with prominent Black figures. So in the next scene, we see that Huey is knocking on the door of MLK, and he's asking MLK to come out because he has an interview that day. And MLK was like, I quit, like, I'm done, like, I'm done with all of this stuff. I don't feel like doing this anymore. And he was like, no, you got to come out here and you got to bring our people together. So MLK finally agreed to come out of his room, and then they went to the like electronics store, and MLK was trying to figure out how he could listen to some Mahalia Jackson on an iPod. He was trying to figure out what iPod to get, and he didn't know. And he said that he felt like he didn't belong in this era. And I feel like MLK definitely doesn't belong in this era. Like, I can't imagine how it would be to have someone like MLK in this era. I feel like as we get more into the episode, I feel like it would be extremely frustrating for MLK or someone like MLK or Malcolm X to be in this era. And I feel like they would just quit and just be like, you know what? I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore because y'all not listening to me. Y'all not getting it together. So I feel like MLK was in the era that he was supposed to be in. And I am appreciative, and I'm pretty sure the entire Black community is appreciative of his work and what he did in the era that he was in. But I feel like he was really meant for that era, because I don't think that we would have appreciated him enough in this era, and that's just my personal opinion. So then Huey and MLK are sitting in a little restaurant, cafeteria, whatever, and they're eating, and Huey is telling MLK that he should create a Black political party. And again, I feel like the spirit of Huey P. Newton is speaking through the character Huey, because Huey P. Newton founded the Black Panther Party, which is a Black political party, a Black power political party. So he was telling MLK, like, you should create this Black political party, and MLK was like, why don't you ask Oprah to do it? You know, she's a celebrity, she's really, really popular, a lot of people like her. And I feel like celebrities can't be, I feel like you can't be a celebrity and a revolutionary. Like, I feel like you can't be someone like Martin Luther King and then try to be a celebrity at the same time. I feel like when you're a celebrity, like when you look at Beyonce, for example, and Jay-Z, when you're a Black celebrity, they have done a lot of good things for the Black community, and they've done a lot of good things, okay? But when you're a celebrity like that, you really feed into capitalism. And when you start to feed more and more into capitalism and racism go together hand in hand. So it's like you kind of are feeding into racism as well. So it's like, it's really hard, and that's something that I have to keep in mind as well. Like, I don't want to be a celebrity, but I do want to be someone who is known for what I stand for and what I believe in, you know? So So with a celebrity status, like, it's really hard to try to fight for the Black community and not feed into capitalism at the same time, which also feeds into racism. So I feel like when Dr. King was saying let Oprah do it and let Oprah, do the Black political party, I feel like people, especially Black folks, don't listen to other Black folks and other people unless they're popular, unless you have some type of status behind your name. People don't really want to hear what you have to say. So MLK was like, since everybody loves Oprah, how about y'all let her form the Black political party? But I feel like you would never see anyone like Oprah forming a Black political party like that, because it just can't, to me, it just can't go hand in hand, the celebrity status and doing the revolutionary work at its core and to its fullest. Like, I can't imagine MLK being both a celebrity and the leader that he was. Even though he was very popular, I wouldn't consider MLK a celebrity, In the next scene, we see that MLK is being interviewed again. He's being interviewed and asked about America and his thoughts on America. And the interviewer gets upset that MLK doesn't answer the question directly. And he yells at MLK and he tells him to shut up. And then Huey goes and beats up the interviewer, which MLK isn't satisfied with, especially because he's not for violence. And after that, MLK and Huey are in the car and they start discussing like the Black political party. So they decide that they're going to hold an event to try to create this Black political organization. And MLK decides to hire an urban marketing firm to promote this event. And the urban marketing firm ends up promoting the event in a way that it's a party and not actually an event to come together as a community and talk about some serious stuff. So Dr. King and Huey get to this event that was supposed to be the Black community coming together, talking about a Black political organization, and Black folks are there. They half dressed, they dancing, they fighting, they doing everything, okay? Everything except for talking about what Dr. King and Huey wanted to talk about at this event. So Black folks thought this was a party and not an event to talk about serious issues. And I feel like it's okay for Black folks to have fun, to dance, to drink, to do whatever, but it's like it's a time and a place for all of this, okay? This was not the time or place to be doing all this, especially because this was in a church building. I feel like sometimes we don't know as a community when to be serious and when to party. Like, we don't have to party all the time, and I feel like sometimes the only thing we're focused on is having fun. Like, I understand that like talking about these serious topics can be draining and we need to balance it out, and balance is great, but I feel like sometimes the balance is off in a way where Black folks just don't care about Black issues at all and just totally disregard it and just want to have fun, and that's it. And I feel like sometimes we need to start taking things a little bit more seriously. Like, we don't have to be serious all the time, but we are talking about generations and generations of Black folks after this, and the people before us did not do all that they could to help us get to where we are today for us to not continue that fight. So Dr. King sees all of this. You can tell that he's disappointed, and he goes to the podium of the church and he tries to nicely tell the Black folks to get their attention and to tell them, like, I got something to say to y'all. So then, once Dr. King realized that he couldn't get the attention of the Black folks, he spazzed and he went off, okay?
Will you ignorant niggas please shut the hell up?
He just said what I think he said.
Is this it? This is what I got all those ass whoopings for? I had a dream once. It was a dream that little Black boys and little Black girls would drink from the river of prosperity, freed from the thirst of oppression. But lo and behold, some 4 decades later, what have I found? but a bunch of trifling, shiftless, good-for-nothing niggers. And I know some of you don't want to hear me say that word. It's the ugliest word in the English language, but that's what I see now, niggers. And you don't want to be a nigger, 'cause niggers are living contradictions. Niggers are full of unfulfilled ambitions. Niggers wax and wane. Niggers love to complain. Niggers love to hear themselves talk but hate to explain. Niggers love being another man's judge and jury. Niggers procrastinate until it's time to worry. Niggers love to be late. Niggers hate to hurry.
He went off, everybody stopped dancing, everybody stopped fighting. They was shook because he called them the N-word. He was just disappointed. He called them trifling. Now, okay, I don't believe that MLK, the actual MLK, would have said all of this stuff, but I definitely believe he would have been thinking it. I don't think that the real MLK would have been this harsh to black people and said that they were trifling, calling them the N-word and all of that other stuff. But I definitely believe Dr. King would have been upset and would have spazzed out in some way, but in a little bit more professional minister type way. He would have spazzed out. So once MLK is done giving his speech, he said, "I'm going to Canada and I'm leaving." So he clearly quit, and he was like, you know what? I'm done. I don't think I can do anything else for this black community anymore. Y'all are not listening to me. I'm not about to stress myself out about this. I'm moving to Canada. And he tells Huey to do what he can. And again, Huey, I feel like Huey P. Newton, the actual person, came after MLK. So I feel like MLK was in a way kind of passing down to Huey, like, hey, like, I'm done. I've done my work and I've done all I can. I'm passing it on to you now. And I think the actual Huey P. Newton did a good job of continuing MLK's legacy and Malcolm X's legacy too, because Huey P. Newton, in his book Revolutionary Suicide, he talks about how Malcolm X was a really big inspiration for him starting the Black Panther Party. So I really think that MLK was kind of like passing the torch to Huey in a way in this scene. So the next day, MLK's speech, where he spazzed out on everybody, was broadcasted on television, and everyone was upset, and it went viral. Basically, everybody was watching it. But the thing is, it kind of like clicked. Like, as soon as a lot of people saw that speech and listened to it, it's like the revolution began, is what Huey says in this episode. So it's like people needed to hear someone like MLK spaz out on them. Kind of like, I don't know, kind of like when I feel like when you were younger, like an older adult like tells you need to get your stuff together, or has a conversation with you, like you really sit there and you be like, yeah, I need to get my stuff together and I need to do better. So I feel like in this sense, like the people were really like, wow, MLK is really disappointed in us. We need to get it together. And that's when the revolution began, and people started to make a lot of changes. The black community started to make a lot of changes. Then the episode ends with Huey saying it's fun to dream, and then there's a newspaper from November 2020 with Oprah being elected as president, and then MLK dying at the age of 91 in Canada. So of course, like Huey saying it's fun to dream is an ode to like I Have a Dream speech by Dr. King. And then I like how they kind of portrayed Oprah, in this newspaper as being elected as president, even though 2020 just passed and she was never, elected president. We do have Kamala Harris, who is part black, and she is vice president now. So I think it's interesting to see that we do have someone black who is of African descent in the White House now. So even though this episode received backlash from people like Al Sharpton, like I said earlier, I really liked this episode. And even though it didn't portray MLK specifically how he probably would have reacted to the black community, I don't think that MLK would have just left us and, you know, went to Canada, but I really feel like this episode represents that it may take someone to speak to us in the way that MLK did in this episode for us to get it together. It's like something has to happen for us to like just snap and get it. And it kind of reminds me of like The Revolution Will Not Be Televised by Gil Scott-Heron, where he talks about how the revolution, like, it starts in your mind, and it's not something that's going to be seen on television necessarily. It's just something that's going to click one day, and you're going to realize you're on the wrong page.
You know, the catchphrase, what that was all about, the revolution will not be televised, that was about the fact that the first change that takes place is in your mind. You have to change your mind before you change the way you live and the way you move. So
it's like, I feel like people, when MLK came back in this episode, they realized they were on the wrong page. And they realized that we need to get on the right page, get on the right note. But I feel like we need something like that now. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what the Black community needs for us to get whipped into shape and for us to realize, like, yeah, we need to come together and actually work on our community, our communities, and work as a unit. Because I really feel like there's still so much divide in the Black community, and there always has been. There's a divide in everything, like colorism, texturism, and even beyond that. Like, there's just a lot of divide, and within social economic status as well. Like, it's so much. So something needs to whip us back into shape. I don't know what that is. I don't know what's going to spark our minds for us to realize some of us are on the wrong page and on the wrong note. But I really hope that something sparks it soon. Not that like the Black Lives Matter movement and like the past 2020, in the year 2020, didn't spark anything. I feel like that's something that sparked a lot of people, but there's still problems there too. So we need something that's going to spark our minds and get us together. We need to raise our consciousness and come together, basically. I could probably go on and on, but I'm going to leave it at that. So let me know your thoughts about this video. Do you think that MLK would be pleased where we are today? Let me know if you like the Boondocks. If you've never seen this episode, it's actually on YouTube. You can search it, and you can just search Boondocks Return of the King, and it'll pop up. It'll have different parts to it, but it'll be the whole episode. So I definitely encourage everyone to watch the episode, because the episode is really funny. I left out the funnier parts of it. I'm more so focused on the MLK part of it. But if you made it this far, thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next video.